Good afternoon, Paul.
George.
Just real quick, just to get out of the way, the guys that didn't practice today, just a rest day.
Yeah, we're anticipating the same lineup. Yeah, we're good.
And now you guys are back home. You had an off day yesterday. What's the mood around the team right now today?
I think it's right where it should be. So this is our second 2-day block in the playoffs. We had one after Game 4 of the Boston series before we went up to Game 5. We've got a routine. We flew at the same time yesterday. Everything is just routine now. There isn't much. I mean, honestly, the practice didn't feel any different today than it did, and we were down 3-1 in that series. There's a little bit of fun in what we do on the ice. We're trying to work on a couple of things on the ice, and after that, it's just getting up and down, feeling the puck, getting the airplane off you, and getting ready. Recovery is what this whole thing is about in between games. So the mood's been pretty darn consistent here.
Can we go back to after Game 4? Sergei gives up 5 out of the 6 in Game 4 against Boston. You've got to make a decision for Game 5. You go with Bobrovsky, and he's been absolutely locked in ever since.
Right.
Can you just discuss how confident this team is playing in front of Bob right now?
Well, that's the weight of leadership, and I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about him. He's a veteran guy that is a really important part of our team, and when you get into those elimination games, the players have to take that burden of leadership, and he certainly did that. So you learn, right? You learn. Every game teaches you something, and even at 1-3 to Boston, you're almost in some ways more confident in the people around you by the way they play. So Sergei came in and has been solid and strong and consistent in that. So that's how he makes the team feel in front of him.
On that same topic, what did you know about Bobrovsky before you came here, and what have you learned since?
Well, not much, right? I mean, I saw him in the playoff series, saw him in the Tampa series when he wins the Vezina. He's on the highlight reels a lot. But what you don't know is a person's routine. How are they as a pro? He's a very detailed pro. I think there was some concern after Game 1 that Lyon was playing, or before Game 1, because Sergei was on the ice, was the last goalie off. Well, that's what he is. He is all dialed in on being a pro. He spends an awful lot of time here on his body, on his routine, and he's just developed that over years. So you just kind of leave him alone. You know what I mean? I in general, I leave the goaltending alone. I don't know anything about it or why you would play that position. And then the technical part of that, you don't understand it unless you're a goaltender. And then the mental part of it, you actually don't understand it unless you've played in the National Hockey League and you've felt that pressure. Right, the Robbie Tallis and Roberto Luongo know the mental part of that game. Sergei is in that, he understands it. So he understands the weight and the pressure of it and how to deal with it.
I wanted to go back to something you said after Game 7 of the Boston series where...
I hate when they do that because I don't remember most of what I say. So this could be dangerous.
But you were talking about how Sam Reinhart has a good read on the room and how he's smart enough to be a GM and stuff like that. But, I mean, going back to his experience, he's a guy who's maybe played through a lot of change in his career and played with a lot of young guys. I mean, how important is it to have a guy like that play with a bunch of young guys? And have you seen the impact on Lundell and Luke Schrader?
For sure. Because he's right. So there's no loss of communication. Okay, so there's the game and what's right about the game, and then there's what coaches think about what's happened, and then there's what players think of what's happened, and a lot of times those are two different things. But I'll talk to Sam sometimes to find out what happened in the game. What are you seeing? What's going on? Whether it's a system, what's going on with our neutral zone, and he's right. So when he's sitting on the bench and he's talking to those two young guys about different ways to handle a scheme that happened on the ice, I don't need to check on it. Just tell me it and I'll put it in with the rest of the guys. There are, like Ronnie Francis was like that. Like you just learn so much talking to a guy like that. Because standing behind the bench is completely different than experiencing the speed and the reads that happen. Patrick Hornquist is like that too. He can talk in great detail about body positions on the ice and what's going on. Sam Reinhart's one of those guys.
And then also just switching gears a little bit to a guy like Gus Forsling, who, I mean, he does a lot of things that go unnoticed, and that you've seen that all season. But he's come out and scored 2 pretty big goals with that shorthanded goal, the game winner last game. I mean, how important has he been all playoffs?
Well, all year, and it's just we think that that's there in his game. He's got a heater. He can absolutely pound the puck. But he's like so many of the guys in this room. They had to fight their way into the league, right? Like they didn't get here at 18. They kind of were in and out, or they got picked up on waivers. So he's had to make sure the base of his game was there to get into the NHL. And he, put on the back burner any offense. It wasn't going to be offense for him. It's the stick and the skating and closing the gap and his defensive read. So he made that his bread and butter. I think there's some offense there that he'll grow into once he doesn't have to prove himself every day that he comes to the rink,
Last one for me, and doesn't look like you're into the playoff beard thing.
It's a bad look.
It's a bad look for you?
It's white, like all white. You know what I'm talking about, George,
yes,
except it's ugly and bad. I will not part of that. I think there should be a separation between players and coaches, and that is definitely not something I want to be a part of.
Have you done them in the past?
No.
Okay, so you've just always been no.
No, and the playoffs aren't. I'd need like a 7-month playoff run for it to fill in enough. I'd still have some gaps. Oh, it's ugly.
So it's just good to that's the dividing point. Yeah, good.
We're at that point in the playoffs now.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, guys.